Alright, so apparently DeAndre Hopkins wasn't released? What's going on, and how will that impact Philly's chances? Plus, Jason Kelce can't say enough about how insanely talented Jalen Carter is, and Brian Baldinger is saying pave the lane doesn't want to play next to Cam Jurgens? What's that all about? But first, let's run it. What's up, everybody? I hope you all had a great weekend, and a very special thanks to all the military members out there. For those that are new, I'm Josh and I cover the birds. So let's start with the DeAndre Hopkins news, which broke on Friday when Adam Schefter said that the Cardinals had officially released DeAndre Hopkins. Very quickly after that, Twitter was sent into an absolute frenzy and the chaos began.
And here we go.
With teams and fans positioning themselves saying they were the favorites to win the D-Hop sweepstakes, and obviously if you were anywhere near social media over the weekend, you know that the Birds continued to be listed as one of the teams, especially after the All-Pro went on the I Am Athlete pod with Brandon Marshall and said he would love to play with Jalen Hurts, and then went on to share a list of what he wanted in a team, saying 1, a quarterback that loves the game and brings everyone on board with him, 2, great defense because defense wins championships and you have to have a great D-line, and 3, stable management because DeAndre's been with 4 GMs in his career. But as Nick Shook of NFL.com said, apparently the stable management piece is the most important part, and it's not really about getting paid. And if you're somehow kind of doubting all of this at this point, you have a really good reason to, because it turns out the D-Hop hasn't actually been released yet. What? That's right. Pro Football Focus's Mike Florio reported that despite the Cardinals announcing their releasing of the star wideout and the willingness to take on the $22 million cap hit, they can't make it official because the league made Memorial Day weekend a 4-day break with no transactions posted on Friday.
That doesn't make sense.
So what does all of this really mean? Well, Florio points out that technically the Cardinals could still trade Hopkins. It wouldn't be the first time a team has changed its mind about cutting a player when the news he was being cut sparked a belated trade market. But the problem is that no one wants to take on his contract. He'd need to agree to a new deal, or the Cardinals would need to be willing to pay some of the salary, basically buying a draft pick. Florio went on to say that he doesn't think a trade is likely, and I agree. Why would a team trade if they knew Nuke, that's D-Hop's nickname by the way, will be available to sign here in a couple hours, because the official deadline is today at 4 p.m. Eastern. So it wouldn't surprise me if we figured out what team D-Hop will play for either tonight or tomorrow, but the question still remains, who will Hopkins sign with? This is where it feels like no one has even the slightest idea, because bookies.com has the Cowboys listed as the favorites at plus 350 odds, and then the Jets and the Chiefs second at plus 500, but then there's this random assortment of teams after that, although it appears the Patriots may be vaulting up the list after DeAndre Hopkins posted on Instagram over the weekend while watching a Patriots Super Bowl rerun.
What does that mean?
But before you absolutely lose it with the Cowboys having a great chance to sign the All-Pro, or wondering where on earth the Eagles are on this list, I wouldn't say it's impossible.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
I mean, if you didn't see it over the weekend, Jalen Hurts did end up following D-Hop on Instagram. Does that mean anything? I don't know, but it definitely got some people excited on Twitter for the potential move.
Oh my God!
Personally, I'm not sure how I feel. Like, Nuke is an unbelievable talent, but we don't really need him. If Howie's ready to spend and pull the trigger on a deal, I say go after Budda Baker or another defensive player to fill a bigger hole, because I think this offense is going to be unstoppable with the way that it is. And Brandon Lee Gouton pointed out he'd be surprised if the Eagles ended up with DeAndre Hopkins. They already make an effort to keep 3 high-volume targets happy in A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, and not everyone was always thrilled with their share last year. Adding a 4th only makes the dynamic more challenging. I agree, and it's really hard to keep your premium players happy. Plus, I don't really want to throw off any of the mojo that we already have.
I'm sorry, but you've thrown off the Emperor's groove.
What do you all think, though? Am I overplaying it? Do you think D-Hop would be worth it? One guy that I'm certain is going to prove his worth is Jalen Carter, and NBC's Reuben Frank admits there's an insane amount of potential for a guy that will undoubtedly be the story of camp, because after all, it's not even June, and the excitement level surrounding Jalen Carter is off the charts. Understandable, because the kid has all the tools to be a difference maker from day one, and when you hear his teammates raving about his strength, athleticism, power, and technique, it's so easy to get fired up. Rube started going back through the Rolodex as he couldn't recall a rookie with this much hype since Donovan's rookie year, 24 summers ago at Lehigh, to find a rookie that brought this much buzz with him to training camp. Part of it is the 2 national championship teams Jalen was a part of. Part of it is how we all knew the Eagles wanted him all along. And part of it is the videos we've all seen from OTAs of the kid running around in shirts and shorts looking like an absolute beast. The kid has all the tools, and he's going to be the story of training camp. Rube makes a great point. I mean, sure, we've had some other acquisitions with hype like Devontae and when we drafted Wentz and Lane Johnson even. I'm sure I'm forgetting some others, but those are kind of the first that come to mind. But it does feel like Jalen Carter's buzz is unmatched to anything in recent memory. But can the Rook handle all of the attention? Sure, he'll be fine, and I expect him to feast, and by the time preseason is here, I think he'll have the starting job locked up. I'm not the only one, though, because Jason Kelce feels the same after he went on Chris Long's podcast to give his impressions of the bread man, saying, "I saw him on his top 30 visit and shook his hand. It was like shaking a big meat paw bare hand." He's a very muscle-bound, mature, physically looking guy who looks like physically he's ready to play right away. But we haven't done a lot of football yet. Kelce also said it's early, but he does see some Daron Payne similarities in Jalen, and that he always seems like he's in the right position. Everything just looks like it moves right. It never looks like he's not in control or in the right body position, and seems like he has incredible balance. Never a bad thing to have a guy like Kelce talking about you like that, but what do you guys think? Any major expectations for Jalen or other storylines you're interested in? For me, I'm super intrigued by the whole right guard positional battle, and probably even more so after the Bleeding Green Nation came out with an article where Brian Baldinger said Lane Johnson doesn't want to play next to Cam Jurgens.
You kidding me?
No, I'm actually not, but it's not like there's any bad blood or anything. Baldy just says Lane wants to play next to a big guy like former Eagle Brandon Brooks and Seumalo. He doesn't want to play next to Cam Jurgens, a 300-pound center, because they're not going to get any movement. Seumalo is much better than people gave him credit for. He didn't make mental errors. He comes from a football family. He had less than 5 penalties last year. The Eagles couldn't afford him. So my first reaction was to look up both weights for Jurgens and Seumalo, since I didn't realize there was that big of a difference. And depending on what source you use, it looks like Jurgens and Seumalo are nearly identical in weight. So what in the world is Baldy smoking? According to the NFL analyst, Seumalo realistically played between 330 to 335 pounds, and you never had to worry about the guy. He was large. Jurgens isn't 310. He's a pumped up 300. He's purely a center. Lane and Kelce know that better than anyone. Okay, sure, I'd trust 2 Hall of Famers to know what's best for the team, especially considering that whoever gets the right guard spot will be next to both of these dudes. But let's not forget, Kelce praised Jurgens just 2 weeks ago when he said, "I think I speak for everybody in the building that Cam was ready to play last year. He could have gone in there and done an extremely good job playing center last year. I feel very confident in that. And he's going to get a chance to compete at right guard. He's going to get a chance to play center still. The future is extremely bright for him. I think he can blossom into one of the best centers in the league easily one day. I think he can play right guard." It's hard to say at this point, but before you knock Baldy saying the report is made up, I'm not so sure because he's obviously very close to Lane, and I wouldn't think he'd have been in the bro barn working out with Pave the Lane yesterday unless this report was true. Either way, I'll admit that after I heard Kelce's input from a few weeks ago, I said Jurgens was the front runner for the job, but now I don't really know. It appears like we have some sort of tug-of-war match between Fat Batman and Pave the Lane. Let's get serious. I don't think there's a ton of drama or guys not actually wanting to play with other dudes because Lane is the consummate professional. I am beginning to lean toward the Stoutland project, and Inside the Birds Adam Kaplan is too, since he believes Steen is the favorite going into training camp. I just don't think Cam Jurgens is a guard. He's more of a center. Jack Driscoll is an invaluable backup, and he's good enough to get you out of a tough spot. 3 or 4 games, no problem, but to ask him to start 17 games plus the playoffs, I think you're asking for too much from him. It makes sense that Steen moves to right guard. At the same time, Steen is a rookie and only played right guard in the Senior Bowl. So is that someone we can feel comfortable just slotting in there? Maybe, maybe not. Thankfully, whoever it will be is next to 2 Hall of Famers on either side of them, but this is really one of my most anticipated storylines going into OTAs and training camp. What do you guys think? I've seen some other headlines about the Birds, and What are they going to do at safety? Can we please see what Sidney Brown and Terrell Edmonds and Reed Blankenship do first? I do believe that Howie's going to make moves, or maybe multiple moves, before the regular season, but it's just prudent to kind of figure out what you have in training camp before you go out and spend something. All right, quick update, some front office news. Zach Berman of The Athletic reported that the Birds have listed Adam Berry as the official director of football operations and strategy. Adam was previously a managing director at Goldman Sachs, and his twin brother Andrew is the current Cleveland Browns GM, who said it will be a great career transition for Adam. He is going to the best front office in football with the Philadelphia Eagles. He is going to learn under a great mentor in Howie Roseman. I am happy for him and I'm excited for him. It will be pretty cool to see him, even if he is wearing different colors. Also of note, Phil Baya, I'm not sure how to say that, is now listed as the director of college scouting. He had previously been the director of draft management. I know those had previously been expected, but at least wanted to touch on them with them now being made official. And pretty cool with the twin thing, especially since I'm a twin. Fun fact for you there. Maybe I'll have him jump on during a live show sometime. So many more topics and headlines with OTAs kicking off. Only 14 more Sundays until the regular season. This has been the Philly Special.